You see my screen, everybody okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. Right, well, welcome everyone to today's session. We're going to go through, if I can get this working, Google Ads. So for those of you who don't know, a Google Ads account will cover many different opportunities for you in Google. There is the Google Search Network, there is YouTube ads, there are discovery campaigns, there are display as well. So there's a lot of power in Google, but we're going to be covering obviously the main two ones today. And just as a heads up, obviously you've got access to Kasim's course. So Kasim covers a lot of good details. He's a really smart cookie on the Google side of things. So please go through all of that. But we're going to share with you today how we approach YouTube ads and Google search ads as well, at least during the first phase, which we'll talk about in a moment. So without further ado, the first setup essentials. What I recommend you do is just go ahead and create yourself a new Gmail address. You're going to be using this for your Google Ads account, Google Tag Manager, Analytics, Optimize, and your YouTube channel, unless you already have one, of course. Now Google Optimize is a free CRO testing tool. It's awesome. It's not as powerful, obviously, because it's a free tool. It's limited in certain things, but it will do A/B split testing on your landing pages. It does require you to connect everything to Google Analytics, though. So the two tools actually work in hand. And in fact, you'll also need probably Google Tag Manager as well, because the setup of all of that is done through Google Tag Manager mainly. It's not the only way, but it's one of the main ways to do that. Go ahead and create yourself a new Google Ads account if you don't already have one. Don't forget that the currency and time zone details can't be changed, and just make sure you set up all your billing information, because Google will actually scrutinize your billing details as well as your ad account as well. So there are things you can and cannot do, obviously, in Google, but one of the things they will check is that your payment profile is set up correctly. That's very important to them. And of course, all of this info will show in your invoice. So, you know, when you're spending ads, you need to deduct all your expenses, so you pay less taxes in your wherever you happen to be. Then make sure you can download the invoices from the platform. So one of the first things you're going to do once you've got your ad account set up is you're going to have to start linking the other two tools. The two ones are your YouTube channel and the way you can and your Google Analytics account. Very straightforward. Once you're into the interface, just go straight to tools and settings. Clicked on linked accounts there, and then just follow the on-screen instructions. Now, just a little PS here, you can actually link the other way around. In other words, you can go into your Google Analytics and your YouTube channel, and in your YouTube channel, in your settings, which you'll find on the left-hand side once you're in the, I've forgotten the name of it, but basically in the YouTube channel settings, you'll be able to link in your Google Ads account. You can do exactly the same from Google Analytics, okay? Now, remember, we're currently rolling out GA4 for all our clients at the moment. We're just setting it all up. It's a very different beast compared to Google Analytics, or what's known as Universal Analytics. As I said, I think in the tracking call, it's super important that you get started with Google Analytics 4, because essentially Google Universal Analytics will stop collecting data around July of 2023. So it's important that you start taking it seriously. And as I've always mentioned before, the sooner you set up your pixels and all your tracking, even if you're not going to run ads, the better it is, because you're going to get you're just going to be collecting data, even if you're not running sort of any paid traffic at the moment. So do go and set up Universal Analytics if you don't have it already, and certainly start getting yourself prepped on GA4. Next big setup stage is your conversion actions. Now remember, Google does not strictly speaking, have standard events implemented. They are actually starting to implement them now, or fairly recently, but they do not have things like lead, complete registration, all the things that we've covered in Facebook ads and TikTok ads for that matter as well. Essentially, in Google, you've got to create what are known as custom conversions. And so again, the way you get to the screen is through the tools and settings at the top bar on the top right-hand side, and then you'll see an option called conversions. This is just an example with some conversion actions already put in. But when you get to the actual screen here, you're going to see this type of screen. In fact, it will ask you to put in your URL of your funnel or your domain, and it will actually try to look at the setup that you might have on your website. But we normally go for manual setup after that. And then you just simply put in all these different categories. So these categories are things like purchases, add to basket, begin checkouts. There's lots of them on there. You've got things like page views, appointments, and so on and so forth. So make sure you choose the correct category. Just put in a name for your conversion name. And we have like a sort of like a naming convention around this. So like step 1 in your funnel is this, step 2, step 3, step 4. That's the way we normally point it out, because when you go into Google Ads itself, which we're going to talk about on the optimization and how to take decisions in your campaigns on the next session, you're going to be able to have to see the data quite clearly. So don't forget to keep your conversion naming convention around step 1, or you might have, for example, funnel name, you might have VSL funnel dash step 1 dash page view, for example, which would be your landing page. Then you've got the value here. If you don't want to use a value, fine. I do recommend that you try to put an estimate of a value in here. So if a value of a lead is worth to you by looking at all your historical data over time, then you can put in the actual value. If you don't have access, obviously, to historical data, just put an estimated value for now, okay? Then you've got something in account. This is very important around e-commerce. So if you're going to do key e-commerce, you're going to select every, and then you're going to select 1 if you have like a funnel, like an appointment funnel, okay? Then we've got all these like things going on. I know Victoria asked a question in the Slack channel about this, about click-through, conversion windows engaged, and so on. So I'm just gonna take a quick look at that. This is exactly what this is actually taken directly from the Google screen. So most of your conversions will occur on what's known as the click-through conversion window. We always leave it to the default, which is 30 days. And it's basically is how long a conversion can be recorded after an interaction. So let's say they click on an ad, they go through your funnel, but they don't actually convert straight up, meaning they don't become a lead straight away, they don't become an appointment straight away. And let's say your conversion is an appointment, which is sort of towards the end of your funnel, then maybe they're not going to sign up immediately. They need several interactions before that. So again, we tend to leave it at 30 days. There's an example that has been put there. The engaged view conversion window. It's basically what it says here. It's just like whatever they see after 10 seconds or more of your video ad. So if you set it to 3 days, any conversion that happens more than 3 days after the person that watches those 10 seconds or more of video won't be counted, okay? Now, we tend to leave that at about 30 days. That's our best practice. You can leave it by all means to default. What we tend to do is put it at 30 days for us. And that's just related to the type of funnels and the type of clients that we're working with. It really comes down to just leaving it to 3 days if you prefer. The default is absolutely fine, but for us, we definitely go for the 30 days. You're going to leave the video, just leave the view through conversion to 1 day and leave the attribution to data driven. There are lots of different models, attribution model that are available, last click, first click, linear, etc., etc. Well, we just leave that to data driven. In other words, what that means is that Google is going to measure the conversions based on the volume of data it is seeing through that particular campaign. And it depends on the number of, the volume of traffic that you're sending through, et cetera, et cetera. So just leave Google to the data driven. That's basically the default that we leave it to. I'm sure you're going to have some questions about this, so I can answer them afterwards for you. No problem at all. Finally, but not last but not least on the setup, just first rule of Google Fight Club is please read the Google Ads policy. I put the link in there for you. You'll get it obviously in the slides afterwards. But this also obviously applies to all the ad networks. You should be reading these policies at least once a month. Now on TikTok, they're more volatile at the moment because it's a relatively new ad platform. But any platform that you're going to be running paid media to, do check those policies. Normally we check them once a month. So we obviously have a heads up because we've got reps working with our agency, so we often get a heads up on what's going on. But for most purposes, once a month normally, it doesn't change that much. There has obviously been a lot of volatility around events that might be going on at any given time. So for example, around COVID, suddenly everyone started updating their policies like crazy. Okay.
Andy, where did you find this old picture of me?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, Aaron's going to show actually the real picture, the real he's going to show it. That's the bonus at the end of the session.
All right. I'm not scared.
Okay. Exactly. Yeah. So YouTube, let's get into YouTube. Right. So the very first thing is there is a terminal. You've got to understand a little bit of terminology. Again, a lot of this is covered in Kasim's course, but essentially there are something which Google call video action campaigns. You've basically got two types of campaigns in YouTube. You can either optimize essentially for people to view the video, or you can get them to do something through the video, i.e. conversion campaigns. It's very similar to what we've covered already. So video views would be, you have something similar in Google, in YouTube, but the vast majority of your campaigns are going to be conversion campaigns. Okay. So when you're setting up conversion campaigns, it's pretty much the default, but there's a setup that is covered in Kasim's course, so you can have a look at it. But I just want to explain what it is. It's really sort of designed to just drive a lot more conversions, because up until about I would think it was September, October of last year, you had a choice about where the ads would be placed. You could either put it in Google's own ad, or basically YouTube ads only within the YouTube network. But now they've included what are known as YouTube partners, and you cannot separate the two. You used to be able to sort of just say, I want all my traffic to go to YouTube only, but now you can't do that anymore. It goes across different ad networks, or where there's a presence or use of the YouTube platform elsewhere. So they're called Google partners, by the way. It's also designed to reach a lot more inventory and make it easier to scale. And by and large, there was a lot of problems, and people were having a lot of problems with basically great campaigns working on the old modality, and they suddenly started dying. And that's going to happen to you if you happen to come into a situation where you're running an ad account and they're still running those legacy campaigns. I guarantee you that those campaigns will die on you. So it's important to get campaigns up and running for what are known as the new format, basically these new, what they call video action campaigns. Okay. There's a couple of links there so you can see, but essentially the auto placements mean mobiles, TVs, that sort of thing, and obviously on desktops as well. Okay, so just let's have a look at this new ad format now, because this is again fairly new. It's part of the video action sort of terminology, but responsive ad format. this is what it looks like. And these are the elements that you are going to have to prepare during the first 30 days. We're going to come on to that in a second. So you've got a call to action, which is 10 characters. You've got the headline. Sorry, that's pointing to the wrong one. That should be over here. And then you've got the banner call to action as well. Now, if you don't upload a banner, a call to action banner, it will take the cover of your, and it will resize the cover of your YouTube channel by default. And that's what they often recommend. But we don't take their recommendation. We actually build out the banner ourselves because it gives you a lot more specificity for your particular funnel. Okay, so it's important to almost ignore what Google would recommend when you're going to create the ad. On mobile, you've got even more going on. You've got a description, which is 70 characters, a long headline of 90, and I'll go through what the display URL means, 1515, in a moment. And then they've got the call to action, which is what we saw before. So this is what's known as the responsive ad format. It is now obligatory. You will not be able to create ads in YouTube now without having these completed. They're forcing essentially all advertisers to move and include all of these elements. All right. So you just cannot get away with what we had before, which was a very simple sort of thing, which was that essentially you would have, yes, your banner, you could just use what was on your YouTube channel, you'd have the headline, call to action, and the video itself. That's gone now. You've got to actually go and complete all of these things. So let's have a look at the actual YouTube or Google Ads process. I mean, for search, it doesn't matter. We get clients that come in with full Google, so they want display, they want discovery, they want the whole lot. It's the same essentially. There's always obviously there's a lot more work that goes in when you're running on across multiple ad networks in Google, but essentially you've got the same as we have in Facebook. We typically space out about 30 days to prepare everything for the launch, and that's what we're going to cover today. But we'll cover the later sessions about launch. What you will notice is indifferent to what we have done in Facebook. In phase 2, it was 30 days. Launch and initial testing, generally speaking, is about 45 days in Google. And the reason is because, generally speaking, the audiences in YouTube are vast. They are absolutely massive. And the amount of targeting options, which we're going to look at today, is pretty substantial. You're just going to be pretty blown away what you can do in YouTube, which is why, you know, if you're going to move into YouTube, you're going to have a competitive advantage because a lot of people are, quite frankly, worried about the workload when it comes to YouTube. And it's true, there is work to do. There's no such thing as a free lunch, right? But it's really worth it because the targeting is just amazing. But it does take longer to dial in. So you do have to be patient with it, and you do have to have the budget, obviously, to sustain that. Now, the budget I'm going to talk about a little bit later on, so don't worry about that. I'm mainly addressing a US-centric perspective, but other competitive markets, which we talked about before, like in the UK and Australia, are fairly competitive as well, but nowhere near as the US. And if you're in Europe, for example, you're going to a local country, then the budgets can be adjusted accordingly. Okay, now the creative process. This is the big one, folks. Essentially, this is the general creative process, which has been around since like forever, and it works. It just simply works. There are lots of other iterations or options that you can do around your creative, but we always start with this one. And what it means is that your total video length roughly is not going to go over, generally speaking, 3 minutes. We like to keep it shorter. In fact, when you try to create an ad which is longer than 3 minutes, Google will warn you and say, hey, we don't think this is a good idea. Please reduce the length of your video ad. And that's because Google's own research has shown that better results are generally acquired when you have a shorter video. And that's true to some degree. There are lots of nuances around this, but ultimately, like we've always said along during this whole boot camp, it comes down to test, test, test. So the way to start out during these first 30 days is you've got to start preparing 5 hooks. We're going to cover that in a moment. And the hook is really those 5 to 15 seconds. That's where you are going to grab the attention of your prospect in the ad itself. It's the most annoying 5 seconds on the internet, unless you've got, of course, YouTube Premium, where you're not going to see ads, but most people are not. So ads will still show in their feed whether they like it or not. Okay, so you've got to basically prepare 5 hooks when you start out. Now, the education section is really, we used to call it like the tip section, but education is a better word, I think, a better description for it. It's really where you're offering a little bit of value. Okay, you might have, you know, for example, in a hook, have you wondered why that you have reduced your carb intake and you're still not losing weight? Well, let me tell you how you can overcome this. So maybe that's the hook, that someone is trying to be on a diet, they reduce their carbohydrates, but they are still not losing weight. And so the education section really is going to give them a couple of educational tips, like, well, you know, you've got to balance it with the right carbs or the long carbs, or you've got to have more protein, or you're going to give some kind of education to the prospect at that stage. Okay, and that's really sort of the engagement part of the video. Then finally, at the end, you're going to actually have to call them out, to call the action. So that's 15-20 seconds. That's going to be sign up for my free training. We're going to cover this and that and so on and so forth. You don't want to keep it too long. You just want to keep it straight to the point and get people to call, click the button around the video. Okay. Any questions so far? I think we're going okay. I can see lots in the chat box coming up, so I'll deal with those in a moment. So the other assets you're going to need to prepare, you're going to prepare 2 companion banners. That's what it's called, those little banners that I showed you on the desktop version. It's called a companion banner. And remember what I said earlier, include the CTA in your copy there. Okay, the dimensions I've just put them there for you to have them for reference. And you're going to be preparing 2 calls to actions, 3 headlines, 3 long headlines, 3 descriptions, and 1 display URL for now. Okay, now what is a display URL? Okay, it's just another way of grabbing attention of the user, and you can test these, but generally speaking, when we're starting out, we always start with just 1. So for example, you can do 15 characters on one side of this / here. So I put like great food, great body, or you can just limit it to 1, which is just, for example, I put just 30 days, for example. Okay, so that's what you've got to prepare on the YouTube side with your other assets. So that's beyond the video itself. Now let's talk about audience preparation. So within the Google Ads interface, you go to tools and settings, and you go to an option there which is called Audience Manager. Once you're in there, you're going to see 3 different options at the top. Okay, you're going to see essentially what are known as your data segments, custom segments, and combined segments. Let me explain what the difference are between the 3. So your data segments are based on data that you have available to you from your funnel, your website, or even your YouTube account. Okay, so for example, people that have visited this is where you're doing like custom audiences for Facebook. This is where your data segments are stored. So people that have visited or become a lead over the last 140 days, people that have visited, I don't know, your landing page over the last 30 days or 90 days. You can spread it out however you wish. It's essentially the same as creating a custom website audience in Facebook, but it's categorized in Google's language as a data segment. Now, custom segments are slightly different, and we're going to go into that here on the audience preparation. But first, let me tell you the audience, just like we did on the Facebook session 2 sessions ago. You're going to have to go ahead and prepare, very similar to what we talked about in Facebook. You're going to prepare actually 5 different audiences, okay? The first one is, and I'm going to show you some screenshots shortly, so I'm sure you got some questions on this, but you're going to be selecting some topic related keywords to the topic in question. So, for example, lose weight. They're basically keywords. We'll have a look at it in a minute. The second audience you're going to be is around infotainment related type keywords. Now, a keyword, if you're not familiar or you haven't had a chance to go through Kasim's training, a keyword in Google's land is one or many words. So how to lose weight fast is one single keyword. Lose weight in 30 days is another single keyword. Just lose weight would be another keyword. So a keyword is actually made up of several words together, okay? Now, you're going to be using topic related keywords, and you're going to also be using infotainment. So what do they read? Who are they listening to? Which channels are they going for? Now, there is something called placements in Google YouTube ads as well, meaning that you can target individual channels or ads or even YouTube videos themselves. You can actually target them individually, but it's something called the placements option. Now, we haven't gone down this rabbit hole right now. For now, when you're starting out, we're just going to go for infotainment related keywords. So what are they reading? What are they listening to? Etc., etc. Another good one. This is really, really powerful, folks. If you are, for example, offering a service, let's say you're offering, I can't remember who it was, I apologize, but if you're offering insurance in a state and you know that they're going to, you know, competitive websites, then you can actually add in, you can see, basically, you can target people that have already been visiting those websites. So if they're looking for a secondhand car and you know the websites in your local area of that are, you know, that they're going to the visit, you can put that in. Now, you can go to The Economist or economist.com. You can go to Wall Street Journal, WSJ.com, NewYorkTimes.com. You can literally target people right down to the website that they're visiting. So that's one of the audiences you're going to prepare. That obviously means that you've got to do your research. You've got to find out who your competitors are in your niche, in your space, in your area, state, country, etc., etc. Okay. It could be not only competitors, of course, it could be other websites that they'll likely visit around that particular niche or the niche that you're working or targeting. Okay. Another big one is influencers, gurus. There might be names of people. You might go to Perry Marshall. You might go and put Ryan Dice. You might put the names in there. Again, those are keywords, again. So they're just keywords, the way you're going to be creating gurus and influencers. Now, the fifth one is something I'm going to show you in the following screenshots, okay? There, Google provides you with built-in audiences already done for you. Don't forget, YouTube is the second most visited website on the planet. They have been collecting data for light years. Well, in digital terms, they have anyway. They've been collecting it and categorizing and understanding all this big data. They've grouped together and they give you access to these people that are actually in the market looking for something. And we can have a look at some examples, perhaps in an ad account a little bit later if we have time. So you've got in-market audiences and you've got something called affinity audiences, which is basically what do they do? So if you're, for example, in the dog training space, you're going to probably choose, there's probably an affinity audience that people that like pets, okay? So that's an affinity audience, as an example, and we'll have a look at that if we have time. There's also a special combination where you can actually, just like in Facebook, you have this option where you're putting in an interest, for example, a cold interest, and you are laying it or narrowing it down with another interest. So it's one interest and another interest. In Google terminology, that's called a combined audience. So you can go and say people who visited these websites and are in the market for dog training. Okay, you can set up what's known as a custom, or sort of what they call essentially as a combined audience. Okay, now in addition to this, just like in Facebook, you've got to exclude, you don't want to show ads to people that have become leads or have booked a call or purchased your product, right? You need to exclude them. Where do you do that? You do that in your data segments. Remember, that's in the data segments area. Okay. All right. Let's have a look at some screens. So here's just an example of you going in and creating a custom segment where we're using basically affinity with basically anything to do with marketing experts. Okay, so we've got, like in this case, it could be topic related or it could be guru related. But the point is this is the option you need to choose. People with any of these interest or purchase intentions. You can also test further down the line people who search for any of these terms on Google. In fact, you will be testing both types of segments. Okay, there's a very slight difference we haven't seen over when I'm looking at like 4 years of YouTube data. There isn't a huge difference between the two, but you will get some outliers where one audience performs better than the other when they got the search option and when you've got that have the purchase intention or any of these interests. So that's just a screenshot of an example of a custom segment when you're using keywords. This is a website segment example. So I mentioned to you that you can target people that have visited specific websites. I mean, that's just so crazy, and it works well for us as well. Now, you'll find that the keyword campaigns work extremely well once you've done your keyword research, which I'm going to actually cover a little bit earlier on in the Google search part of this presentation. But you can just basically say with any of these interests or people who visit websites similar to, and then you can just simply paste in the URLs you want right here. You can even go to people that are downloading certain apps. So for example, I don't know, you're trying to sell, let's say you've got a competitive offer for a smartwatch, right? You're trying to market that. Well, you could put in Garmin.com, for example, but you can also put in the Garmin app, for example, if you wanted to. Basically, any app that's in the Google Play Store, you can also narrow it down by that. So if you've got a list of apps that you know your audience are using, you can create a custom segment from that. And you can see that is just incredibly powerful. You can reach people that have downloaded apps 1 million times. Okay.
Yeah, great examples for this, Andy, are when I had my weight loss company.
Yeah.
When you talked about visiting websites,
yeah,
we put all the websites in for like Weight Watchers, Jenny Craig, Nutrisystem, Atkins.com. And then when we had apps that we were targeting like Kayla It Seems and MyFitnessPal and all of those types of weight loss apps. And they were some of the cheapest targeting we got, because when you're competing, when you're targeting competitors, it's already a problem aware audience.
Correct. Exactly. And so many people just don't do this. I don't understand it. And when a campaign manager in 7 Mile doesn't do that, I go around with my proverbial but very British hammer and get very angry. It's such a great opportunity, folks. So just make sure you test this one as well. Okay, you'll be testing these audiences a lot as you move through the journey with your YouTube ads. Now, here's a combined segment. I talked about affinity and in-market, and there's also something called life events, which I didn't mention before, but you can target people starting a business. It's just crazy. If you want to, You can target all sorts of things within the life events as well. People getting married, people moving home. You can target what known as in-life events. It's part of the sort of in-market category, okay? Where do you find it? Well, you don't find it in the tab that I was talking about, which is the custom segment. You find it in another tab towards the top right-hand, well, to the right-hand side, which is called a combined audience, okay? And you just simply go in there. You can put the segment name, and then you can go down to, you go down basically to here, and then you just click on browse, and then you'll get access to all of these. You can go down by detailed demographics as well. There's all sorts of different things that are going on in here. The targeting is just absolutely phenomenal in YouTube. That's why it's much easier to scale in YouTube than it is, because these audiences are just absolutely huge. And that correlates back to why it takes sometimes longer to get your first stability up and running within YouTube, which is why I've put 45 days. But the targeting is just something I just absolutely love in Google. You can tell I'm a big fan, and I'm a big fan of all ad networks, but Google is one of my favorites because it just gives you so much scale. It's just off the charts. You're not going to scale, obviously, until you dial things in. So that's what we're going to talk about on the next sessions. But this is where you're going to find like an in-market infinity or a life event type of thing. So very, very powerful. You can layer all of these things together. Don't get too narrow, though. This is a common mistake. And let the algorithm, like for example, when you have a Facebook audience size, you don't want to, in wherever possible, you want to give as much freedom to Google, because the more you zone in and you've got keywords layered on with starting a business, and they got married and they got one left leg or something, something crazy like that, your audience is going to be very small and your CPMs are going to go through the roof. Okay, so try to keep them fairly broad. The Google algorithm will actually dial in, but there's another reason for the 45 days. It's going to take a little bit longer to dial in, because the audiences will be quite substantial, big. So generally speaking, when you launch a YouTube ad, you're not going to touch it for at least 72 hours, at least when you're launching. Now, you will see some sort of certain types of behavior, which I'll explain either today or in another session, but you've got to give the system 72 hours. We've had so many cases actually beyond the 72 hours where you create the campaign and then nothing has happened. We spent $500, and then in day 4, boom, suddenly YouTube manages to find, through its AI, through their algorithm, it suddenly finds the right time, the right placement, because remember, everything is responsive now and it's throwing a big wide net, but it will take, and then day 4, boom, suddenly leads start coming in like crazy. And then the campaigns just get better and better. There are other cases where you reach sort of like day 4 and nothing has really happened, and you're looking at the KPIs that we've talked about before, like CTR, view rates, etc. Then you might probably make a decision to kill it. But you do have to have the budget and the patience, okay?
Excuse me, Andy, can I have a quick question?
Sure.
Can we go back to that slide for the custom segment, please?
Yep.
One more. So, the first radio button, people with any of these interests or purchase intentions. This used to be the old affinity audience, right?
That's right. Yeah, so exactly.
Do you use that, or do you use the second one, which is the in-market, what people are searching for on Google normally?
So yeah, we normally start with these interests or purchase intentions as a start.
Okay. All right.
And then we use any of these terms on Google once we've launched.
Okay, so do you also add the websites people visit or the apps they downloaded, or you just put in the interest or the purchase intentions in there? That's it.
That's it. Yeah, this one over here. In fact, the previous one. So people with any interest or purchase intentions, that's the one we'll do. That's just one specific audience out of the 5 I listed.
Yeah, and you won't add any websites, URLs, or apps in here.
No. Just pure keywords. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
no problem. Yeah, but it's a good question. Combined audiences, where were we? Right, okay. So we've gone a little bit quicker here, and I'm sure this, I can see 27, my goodness, in the chat. Let's put this all together. Now, generally speaking, if you're going across the United States, you need to be looking at about minimum $100 to $150. That's national, okay? If you're going to go to a state, just do a statewide, then I would put something around $20 on each campaign to start with. So if you're in, for example, Florida, then go for 20. You can start that low, but it's a chicken and egg situation, folks, in the sense that the less you put in, the longer it will take. The less you put in, then it's going to take you longer to get the data coming back. Your goal during this launch phase is to gather data for you to start making decisions in your media buying, smart media buying decisions, obviously. But generally speaking, we're not going to start less than 150. In fact, we tell most of our clients that we like to start about $300 a day. And that's because they obviously have the financial capacity to do so. And they also have a working funnel. So they have a working offer, they have a working funnel, and they just simply want to move into YouTube, and they've got the cash flow to sustain this. Okay. Now, just because you're putting $300 a day doesn't mean you're not going to get results for 6 weeks. That's not the case. You will get results. It's just that it's not in a state where you are ready to start scaling at particular levels. You will, but you will get results. And we're going to talk about that, which is phase 2, which is during that initial critical 6 weeks or 45 days, where you're going to have to start making decisions. And we're going to give you a template on how you make those decisions in the following session.
I think it's important to just pause there for a second on that. Yep. You know, so much of media buying is setting expectations, and any client that we work with, we tell them on Facebook, for example, we need 30 days of testing to get our KPIs in line. Yep. And on YouTube, we need 45 days because there's so much more creative. It's so much more labor intensive to do YouTube creative. And, you know, the reality is that we could get into KPI faster than we think. And it does happen often, but if you don't properly set the expectations, then you're setting yourself up for failure, and you're setting yourself up for impatience and frustration. It's better to be ahead of schedule than, you know, behind schedule in the mind of your client. And, you know, the reality is that, you know, we have to run a lot of our YouTube ads for, we recommend as much as 72 hours, where in many cases we might kill something first day with Facebook and Instagram. That's right. You know, so I don't use his words, but I remember Frank Kern once saying, you know, if we turn a campaign on in the first week and we get results, we don't call it standard, we call it an effing miracle, right? You don't want to be setting that expectation with your clients. So we're just going to chuck this up, and first week, you know, we're making rain. You're going to make sales probably, but they're probably not going to be at the KPI that you were looking for. So you need to give yourself that runway for testing. Absolutely. Yeah. And especially with YouTube, as I'm mentioning, you know, the audiences are much bigger, even with the keyword segments and so on and so forth. So, but this structure that you're looking at here is that one of the disadvantages of Google is that, so just like Facebook, TikTok, everything that we've looked at so far on the bootcamp, it has the same structure. You've got a campaign level, then under that you can have many ad groups, and under each ad group you can have multiple ads. So it's a one-to-many relationship from the top down, okay? Now, the thing with Google is that you are not able to set budgets at an ad group level. In other words, the Facebook equivalent in Facebook terms is that Google is a CBO platform, a campaign budget optimizing platform. Okay. Now, if you were to set, for example, let's say you put 3 ad groups or 2 ad groups in campaign number 1 up here, what Google will do is take that $50 and decide how much of that $50 per day it's going to put towards ad group 1 and ad group 2. We're forcing the system we want to get a learning.
We're in the business of learning as quickly as possible. So the goal of this structure is to be very clear about what we're testing. If you allow Google to test and put multiple ad groups within a particular campaign, it will spend the money, maybe $30, $40 in ad group number 1 and $5 in ad group 2, for example. It's normally not that bad, but you want to have the control and you want to read and get the data, accurate data coming back to you when you launch these campaigns. So you can only set the budget at a $50 level, okay? The campaign level, I should say. Now within that ad group, you're going to put in 3 ads to start with, okay? And I'm going to go and show you what those ads look like and how they're built out, okay? The second campaign you're looking at there is for an example, an in-market audience. And the third one is just targeting websites only. It's just an example. But the cold one, you're certainly going to start with keywords around your topic. You're certainly going to find that campaign 2 is essential. And campaign number 3 is kind of up to you. It doesn't really matter because ultimately you'll be testing all of the audiences that I asked you to prepare beforehand, okay? So the third one is optional, up to you, but generally speaking, we go for either infotainment audiences or websites, okay? Now, the big difference, just to point out why we're doing it this way. Well, cold keywords, sort of keyword topic type of category, they tend to convert quite fast. They tend to convert faster, but the in-market audiences are much more scalable. The problem with in-market is it takes longer to dial in. It takes a lot longer for the campaigns to actually dial in, but keywords, so when you have this sort of like balanced campaign management point of view, you're going to get fairly quick, fairly fast results with keywords first, but then in markets may dial in quickly, but they tend to, on the overall point of view, they tend to take a little bit longer. But when you reach keywords, there's only so much search volume around the keywords that you've put into your custom segment, okay? So they're much more difficult to scale. So this balanced approach allows you to start splitting your budget on 2 ways. One is more strategic and one is more tactical. The tactical one is campaign number 1, which is designed to get you faster results. And campaign number 2 is more strategic, shall we say, in nature. Strategic is a bit of a misnomer, but it means that it's just going to take longer to dial in. But it's not uncommon for us to have one single own market audience running at $10,000, $15,000 a day. It's not a problem at all, because the audience and the information, particularly once you've got the campaigns dialed in, Google will start recommending that you increase your budgets to that sort of level. And it's not uncommon at all once you've got it dialed in. It's just like a rocket ship when it comes to in-market audiences, okay? And campaign number 3 is just another test campaign. Websites are good. Again, they tend to convert relatively fast. They're kind of like into the intermediate sort of range. But certainly keywords will get you faster results when you're going out of the gate, okay? Just in terms of the ads, you're going to put the same 3 ads into your ad groups, okay? Now you're going to do, I've just simplified it here. I asked you to prepare several headlines, and the reason is because you're going to do all the hard work, the heavy lifting, and you're going to have these assets at the ready when you start launching your campaigns. But for now, when you're going to launch, you're going to go with headline 1, long headline 1, etc., etc. But the only difference is that you're going to be using hook 1, hooks 2, and hook 3 in your different ads. Remember how I built that little diagram where you had 5 hooks at the beginning, and you're going to have 4 and 5, which are going to be left for later on. But you're going to have hooks number 1, 2, and 3 edited together with your single sort of education piece and then your call to action piece, okay? We'll go back to that if there's any more questions. I'm sure there is. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of section 1. Now I think we should take questions around YouTube. I'm sure there are many. I can see 27 in the chat box at least.
Yes, indeed there are. So we'll start off first with Victoria, who says, is it okay to use my current personal Gmail account for this? I went through the paid traffic and began setting up my personal Gmail. Should I set up a new email for this? And also, I do have G Suite, so I do have a personal business email through Google.
Yeah, that's fine. You can absolutely use it. It's not a hard and fast rule. It's just to separate, like if you've got like a personal Gmail account and you're using it for a lot of communications with customer, or you got a G Suite account and you're using that for comms with customers, you don't want all this ads being approved and oh, this has disapproved. We like to sort of like have the business side of things in one email and then all the ad sort of stuff in another email, if that makes sense, and all the analytics suggestions or the optimized newsletters or whatever you might sign up for. You don't want it littering your sort of principal business email, if that makes sense.
All right, great. So Mahai is asking, any good resource you would recommend for GA4?
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of good tutorials on YouTube, ironically enough. There's plenty of good tutorials out there on GA4. So there's courses out there, and I'm pretty sure Google have their own training. I would go for the Google training to start with, their official training. They certainly have analytics certification courses. It's good material. I've been through it many times and been certified through the Google Analytics. But yes, go and look online. There's plenty of material on there.
Okay, so Lauren is asking, when do you use linear for the attribution model?
We don't. We used to. We used to use which would give us a balanced approach between first click and last click and going through the funnel. But we tend to use just data driven now because it just feeds the algorithm with better data. So we don't use the linear model anymore. Some purists would say, oh yes, I want to be able to attribute a conversion equally between the first click and the last click, or any other click that would be occurring. And that's not an unreasonable thing to say, because one would argue, for example, if you're talking about a basketball game or a soccer match, do you give all the credit to the goalie, the goalkeeper? Do you give to the forward player? Do you give, in American football, do you give all the credit to the linebacker? Do you give to, it's a team effort. So linear could be seen, but all the glory goes to the guy who scores a touchdown, right? or the quarterback, right? Those are the ones that get the big salaries and all that sort of thing. Maybe I'm not an expert in American football, as you can probably tell, but you can understand. I can understand why linear would be useful. But if you go to data-driven approach, then Google will do all that thinking for you in terms of the attribution modeling. So we just let Google do it because they've got 25,000 PhDs and algorithms that we couldn't possibly outbeat.
Okay, great. So Victoria is asking, in Paid Mastery, Qasem recommends 90 days. Is there a caveat to 90 days on the click-through conversion window? Also, Engaged View conversion, do you recommend 3 or 30 days? It seems you said 30, but the image has 3 days. By the way, I'm using a VSL funnel.
So yeah, generally, I mean, Qasem, there are lots of different points of view around there. We actually fine tune it to a different funnel. Okay, so on e-commerce, we generally go for sort of like shorter windows, depending on the nature of our objectives, shall we say, in terms of where we want to be in a certain time frame. Generally speaking, we just keep it to 30 days. Most VSL funnels should be converting in 30 days. After the click. If they're not, then there's something terribly wrong with your funnel from our perspective. When it comes to, yes, the screenshot, by default, I was showing the default value, which is 3 days there. We tend to go with the 30-day option. But generally, there isn't a huge difference because a vast majority of all your conversions will be click-through conversions. You'll get a few that will appear on the view-through conversions, or the engagement conversions, but generally speaking, 90% of your conversions are going to come through click-through. I'm not sure really why Qasem would recommend 90. There's almost a certain good reason, but we generally go for the 30-day window, because if the funnel's not converting in 30 days, even with email follow-up. So this is important. This is actually a good question to allow me to extend a little bit on. When someone goes through, they click on the ad. Okay, so they click on the ad, they go to your funnel, but they don't convert. Then you've got your email sequences. Let's say you do get them to become a lead, but they don't book an appointment. So what's happening there is that your email sequence is kicking in. And we expect an email sequence to convert, generally speaking, on VSL funnels within 30 days, when we've got the email campaigns really dialed in. And don't forget, we've got copywriters that are doing this. But going beyond 30 days, we've got a problem with the email sequence, or we got a problem with the funnel. So we don't like to go that long, to 90 days, but it's also a sort of subjective sort of thing. People will, it depends on if you're sort of more of a brand and you want people to book, and you're booking for a luxury car test drive or something like that, well, people probably are not gonna, there's not going to be hordes of people that are going to sign up for a test drive of Ferrari because they don't have the money, right? So then maybe you go for a longer click-through conversion window, and you're going to put 150 days because it takes time before you can get somebody into the showroom that's seriously interested to test drive the Ferrari. So it really comes down to, for us on VSL funnels, we like to keep it to 30 days.
Great. I love talking about Ferraris.
Well, Aston Martin is my preference, but there we go.
So Lauren is asking, does the US centric stuff strictly apply to English ads? Would it be different if it's a foreign language in the US market?
Repeat the question again.
Does the US centric stuff strictly apply to English ads? Would it be different if it's a foreign language in the US market?
So I need a little bit more clarity on stuff. Does it mean budget? Does it mean targeting? But maybe I'll try to answer the question from a multifaceted point of view. So let's say you're targeting Hispanics in,
You're talking about budget.
Budget.
I'm talking about budget. Generally speaking, probably a little bit less. So for example, if you're going to Hispanics, yes, you can probably afford to go less for sure. And you may even go down to state. So for example, you might go to Texas, Florida, etc., and that sort of thing, California, obviously. You might go down to the state level there. There you can afford to reduce. Again, it's this chicken and egg situation where if you have the budget, my recommendation is to use it because you want to learn quickly. It's we're a great believer in speed. In the agency, we don't want to wait 60 days, 90 days, 150 days to get a result, because our clients, quite frankly, would leave. But that's why we tell them, give us the budget, or we can't take you on. It's very simple.
Great. Lauren is also asking, the variety of headlines and supporting copy, is that per hook per video or in the dynamic format for use for all?
Yeah, it's just to use for all. It doesn't necessarily have to. You're just testing different individual elements. It's like a multi-ABN multivariate split test on your ads that are going on. And essentially, they're just independent of one another. Obviously, if your offers are if something is very specific in the video and it says book a discovery call, then I wouldn't put the call to action as book a strategy call, if that makes sense. So it's just a question of applying common sense. But generally speaking, we're multivariate testing those elements over time. Okay.
Okay, great. So in Slack, Aaron recommended against running ads off your established channel as your ranking goes down as there is less consumption and engagement. How do you deal with the issue of duplicate content? Do you run ads first to get visibility for the new channel? So
yes, I mean, essentially you upload your ads in your YouTube channel. I'm not sure if anyone has seen, but so you're going to upload them. So if you're going to create a separate channel just for your ads, so it doesn't pollute the actual real organic channel that you have, you're going to create another channel. Fair enough. That by all means, you can do that. But you're going to upload them basically as unlisted. Okay, so people can't actually see the ads. In fact, if you right click on a YouTube ad, you'll see debug information, and from there you can actually extract the ad ID or the URL or the section of the URL so you can see the ad. But you're not going to cause any problems by having a YouTube channel which has no videos on it whatsoever, absolutely nothing. Maybe it has some branding, or maybe it's got 1 or 2 videos on it. And then you're going to essentially upload the video ads directly in YouTube as unlisted. Okay. Now, there's an important point here. We've tested both. And yes, it's true that there is some cross-contamination going on, but we have clients with substantial YouTube channels, and we find that the similar audiences that we can create, which is the equivalent of a lookalike audience of people that are watching your videos, are really good targets. As you can imagine, people that are consuming your videos. So if you're linking to a different channel, then it's much more difficult to do. It's much more to do. You could, in principle, link 2 YouTube channels to your ad account, and you run your ads off the advertising one, and then you build your similar audiences, or you build your audiences of video views off your actual organic channel, if that makes sense. But you can absolutely do it that way, no problem at all.
Got it. So Victoria is asking, on Facebook, do you have a recommended audience size to make sure it's not too broad or too small?
Aaron, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, I mean, historically, I've tried not to go above 3 million, and I've tried not to go below 10,000. But again, my philosophy is always the same: test everything. I think when we start talking about hard and fast rules around audience sizes, it's not a helpful answer to the question. I think in every industry, you're going to have different variables in place. You know, if you're trying to just target, you know, chief marketing officers, for example, you're probably not going to get a target audience above 10,000, you know, and, you know, if you're talking about marketing to, you know, women over the age of 45 to 55, and you want to run an open campaign, that's going to be larger than 3 million, right? So those are just generic guidelines. You should really test everything. If anything, what happens is in a lot of the smaller audience groups, especially when you're super dialed in, your conversions are amazing, which is oftentimes what happens to a lot of clients come to us. They go, oh, I have, you know, like a 20-to-1 return on ad spend. And I go, wow, I can't wait to see it. And they have one audience and it's 5,000 people, and they started running ads 3 days ago. So they haven't even saturated the audience yet. And I go, that's not going to, you know, that's not going to continue. You know, that's just, you know, a very hot audience that's capped out. Right. So my answer would be, in short, would be test everything.
Yep.
Test. Ogilvy says it. Test.
Mhm.
Okay.
So we have our last comment, or yes, our last comment from Elizabeth. Regarding Qasim's same 90-day don't touch philosophy, with a hypothetical budget of $100 to $150 a day for brick and mortar in-person retail in Chicago, how long do I need to run a Google search campaign without touching it before I can start to tweak it? Would it be better strategically to bump up the budget initially so I can tweak it faster? And if so, what daily budget would you suggest?
Okay, so Elizabeth, the first thing is that we've got to be careful about this. Is specifically around YouTube. I'm going to cover Google search in a moment, okay? Because Google search is a different animal altogether, almost. There is the concept of keywords, which I've introduced, but we're going to actually go into the presentation on Google search, at least at the high level or the very basics of it. And I can answer any questions about this, but essentially, Elizabeth, what you're going to be doing is, if you got a brick and mortar retail in Chicago, I remember, obviously, we've been talking a lot, obviously, over these sessions. You wouldn't actually need to probably even run it. Depends on the keyword. So we'll see how to deal with a budget issue on Google search. Okay. Yep. Cool.
All right. That was the last question.
Yep. Okay, perfect. Well, let me go back to slide deck mode. Okay. Just make sure I can see it. You can see that okay?
You're good to go, Professor.
Good. All right, Google search. Right. So the number one and most important task to get in, remember, we're talking about phase 1 here. This is the preparation phase. This is not launching. This is not optimizing. This is not scaling. This is launching. The first thing you absolutely must do is do your keyword research. Now, how long is this going to take you? It will take you, if you do it well, it will probably take you about 2 to 3 hours. That's all it requires. It's not rocket science, at least when you're starting out. Okay. How do you find which keywords to use in your Google search campaign? Now, remember, Google search ads are the ads that appear, they're text only ads that appear when you type in a search query in Google. Okay. You get up to 4 slots at the top and you get some slots at the bottom as well. Okay. But you essentially be bidding against your competitors. But you got to find the keywords first. You got to figure out what people are searching for. As I pointed out, Google search very early on in the bootcamp, Google search is often low-hanging fruit, high-quality traffic. The downside is that it can be expensive. So the cost per clicks on certain industries can be very, very expensive. Okay. But with that said, let's have a look at what you need to do within Google Ads. So once you open your Google Ads account, you're going to go to the tools and setting again, and then you're going to click on Keyword Planner, and then you're going to click on Discover New Keywords. Okay, it will show your ad account over here, the name of your ad account. You'll see another, I haven't put every single screen, but then you just simply will be prompted to either enter some ideas of your own. So for example, I put in here online yoga, but you can also scan your website. Now, we generally like to sort of use keywords. You can also literally pop in the URL of your homepage of your website or a product page, for example, in your e-commerce, and you can actually get Google to scan, and it will find, or it will attempt to find good keywords for you, or it will find whatever keywords it can. Okay. All right, but in this case, I typed in just a simple keyword. Remember, keyword is 1 or more words. I just typed in online yoga. And this is the result it's given me. It's given me the keywords that I provided. And then Google has gone ahead and actually generated a whole bunch of different ideas around keywords. Excuse me. Online yoga is generating roughly 3,600 monthly searches between these date range. By the way, you can put this to 2 years. So it will give you up to 2 years data. Online yoga classes, yoga shop, online yoga classes near me. There's another keyword, very low search volume though. Free, you probably don't want to bid for, you don't want to put free, or maybe you are offering free, but hopefully you're hoping that your free yoga classes online that they sign up for, it could be a strategy of yours. You want them to get to your landing page, you want them to opt in, that gets them on your email list, and you're happy to pay whatever it needs to pay for the lead. Okay. Free yoga online, there's just tons and tons of them. Okay, and you can see just how many, just out of one single root keyword we've put in here, we've generated 1,530 different keywords. Are all of them going to be relevant? No, not necessarily. Now, one other thing you can do here, which I think is definitely relevant to you, Elizabeth, is if you are local, you have to go and obviously select your actual zip code or your area. You need to put in, basically, you need to change that obviously from the United States to wherever you happen to be in Chicago, for example. Okay, so you're going to have to change that setting, which you can do on the screen, which is not displayed here before. So you're going to go into Chicago and then you're going to type in keywords. Okay. All right. You're going to put in 1 or more. You can generally, we try to put 2 or 3, and that gives us just generally more ideas that are going on in here. Now, once you've done this, we have a very specific process, and I will share a spreadsheet template with you after this call. But essentially, what you've got to do is now download the keyword ideas. That's going to produce, either you can put that into a Google Sheet, or you can put that into an Excel, a CSV file, I should say, which you then have to import. And when you do that, you basically come out with something like this when it's tidied up. Have a look at the top screen here. And I've only got this, this is pretty much the last slide on this, but I'll explain what this does. So in this particular case, it was like online courses. I'll just put that as an example, okay? Essentially, what we're doing is we've gotten, let's say, 1,500 keywords. Now, all of them are not going to be relevant, all right? Some of them are going to be keywords that you would, you just flat refuse. For example, if you don't want to have your ad triggered with the word free, you would eliminate from this list or just hide the row in your Excel sheet on all the ones that are non-relevant. What we do is that we color code them. So the most interesting keywords that appear to us to be very, very relevant are the ones that we highlight in green. The ones that are completely irrelevant are red, and then the other ones which are kind of undecided or somewhere in between get highlighted in yellow. And then we filter by color, and then we filter just for the green ones. Now, if you have a look at this sheet, which was also appearing in the previous screen here, you saw top of page bid on the low range and the high range. This is Google's estimate for cost per click. This is the top of page. This is the lowest you're likely to pay, and this is the highest you're likely to pay. When you come to Google search optimization, which is a skill containing many different items like testing different extensions, it will require you to add what are known as negative keywords to your library, to what's known as those negative keywords are just keywords that you don't want your ad to trigger, okay? But once you've downloaded this, you're going to get this top of page bid and top high and the low rank. So it's giving us, so cost per click to create an online course for that keyword, according to Google, that competition index goes up to 100, by the way. It's fairly competitive. It's a medium competition, you can see here. If it goes over the 70, it's going to hit the high, okay? But the most you're likely to pay is $32 for one single click. And the low range is $8.37. With optimization, you could probably get that down to about $5 a click. But that's the skill really of actually managing the campaigns and getting them down. It's about improving your quality score on the ads itself. It's about relevancy. It's about making sure you're using the keywords in the ad itself. It's about making sure that you're using the keywords or the ideal keywords or related keywords on your landing page, because Google does look at your landing page experience as well. By the way, speed comes into it. We've talked about this before, about how critical it is to have a very fast loading page speed. It will affect what is known as your quality score in Google search, which doesn't exist in YouTube, by the way. It's something which is very specific to Google search, okay? Now, once you've done this exercise of filtering the keywords that you have, this little formula here is a subtotal formula, so it's just adding up the ones in green. It's giving you the top and high range on the bid. And what happens on a separate sheet within, well, actually in the same Excel, what happens is that you're going to get, you can create another separate subsheet within it, and you basically work out your average CPC. This formula here is a subtotal based on averages of this range of numbers over here. So it's giving you an average, okay? Once you've got that across, you just have a little formula in here on the search volume. So it's taking the 5,000 from here. It's taking, you can see it's just copied them across. It's just a reference to a separate sheet, and it's calculating the average CPC. Now, the most important thing in Google search is your click-through rate, okay? Your click-through rate on Google search will vary depend on industry, but it could be anything from, for example, 1% is on the lower range, and you should be shooting for something like 2.5 or something around there on basically keywords. That's the sort of generally sort of standard practice. Now, if you're going for things like branded keywords, what does that mean? Branded keywords are essentially keywords which have your brand in it, like Schweppes or gin and tonic or whatever, Beefeater or whatever it happens to be. That's a branded search. And what happens is that you get to the top of the search engine and you don't have to depend on SEO, and the clicks are very, very cheap. Your cost per click on branded campaigns will go down. Let's say you've got a name of a program. Let's call it, I don't know, high ticket coaching accelerator. That's not very original. Let's call it Andy's high ticket accelerator. If someone's going to search for that term, Andy high ticket accelerator, then what I'm going to bid for that keyword, it's a keyword. Okay, so it's 4 words, it's keyword, but it's a branded search. And I will always be number one, and I'll probably pay something like 10 cents to get the click, but it guarantees I'm at the top of the search engine, always, if I'm not there already on the SEO side. But when you're in competitive industries, sometimes it's much more competitive, and you want to make sure you're not number one and not relying on SEO. But of course, SEO is not a bad strategy. It's a great strategy. It's just a longer term strategy. But you're essentially going to put your different click-through rates in here. It's just to help you start budgeting. So if you do get an average click-through rate of 5%, then you're going to have to put or budget yourself for $3,700. Okay. The great thing about this is that you can then put it down and bring these CPCs or these click-through rates and these budgets down into your funnel. And you can see that I won't go into the individual math, but we've got, do you remember the KPIs and the models that Aaron went through? This is sort of like our model is put in here. And so we're expecting at least 90%, for example, 90% of the clicks to actually hit the landing page. If it's less than that, we've got a problem with the load speed on the landing page, but we're expecting 90%. If we're going to get 50 clicks, then oops, if we get to 50 clicks, we should expect 45 clicks hitting the landing page. And then it's just simply a calculation moving down. All right, so we've even included like just the marketing part of it, and you can add in the sales equation of it as well. Okay, so these numbers here are just orientated because I've just rounded the decimal numbers down. That's why it's getting a funny number, because you think, well, how can I get 0 if our pricing is 7,000 for our coaching program, for example, and I've got 0 here? Well, it's just because that's 0.5 or whatever it happens to be in this particular case. So it's just giving you some rough math, and of course you can calculate your ROAS from there. So on this particular campaign, it gives you a kind of like a simulator on what you can expect your ROAS to be with Google search. So I will get this out as a sort of like template, and I'll send it over to you, Cecilia, okay? And that's it. I think I've finished the end. Yeah, thank you. There we are, all done. That's all in a nutshell. It's very compressed, I know, folks, but what questions? I'm sure maybe there's some questions, maybe not. Let's see.
None so far.
None so far.
Processing a little bit, maybe.
Oh, Uzair's got a question. Go for it.
Yeah, I love the simulator you have based on the CTR and everything. If you just improve that metric, the whole funnel improves or changes. That's brilliant.
That's right. Yeah, it just increases your volume because as you can understand how your ROAS projections are going to look like on the keywords. Now, obviously, what happens, and you know this all too well, Uzair, the more you optimize the campaigns, the CTRs generally go up and your CPCs go down. If you can increase your quality score, and quality score is something that you see at the ad level, by the way. Okay, so you see it at the quality scale, and it will give you a ranking basically on the quality. If you get the higher quality, you may, the trick with Google search is, as long as you're providing a quality experience on the landing page, you get a good quality ad, okay, meaning that your keywords are included. You can use something called dynamic keyword insertion in your landing pages as well. what it means is that it's going to take the keyword that the person actually searched for, and it's going to dynamically insert it on your landing page. So you don't have to have like gazillions of landing page with thousands of keywords, right? It'll just do dynamic keyword insertion. So you can do that.
So does the DKI have any effect on the quality score? Because technically speaking, Google isn't seeing the keyword on the landing page unless somebody lands on it.
So when they land on it, it's going to look at other aspects on the landing quality, obviously the landing page quality. They never tell us what it is. I wish they would, but they don't. They don't tell us what it is. But generally speaking, a lot of it's to do, we found, with page speed. Affects the quality score quite a lot on Google search. So it's very important if you want to pay low CPCs and you want a higher quality score. So what that means in practical terms for everybody else is that you saw that bid range, which is top of page and lower bid. So the lower bid and the higher bid. Okay. When you're doing that, essentially you're trying to get your CPC as low as possible. Someone could be bidding more than you, or they could be bidding more for you. They could be saying, look, I'm going to put a budget of $50 or $100 a day, and you're going to put maybe a max CPC on the actual campaign itself. But you can reach a status or a situation where you have essentially, you are bidding less, but your quality score is higher, and yet you're still number one. Yet your competitor has a lower quality and is bidding more than you, $10 more, but because your quality is better than them, you can outrank them in those top 4 spots. Okay, it's a sort of trifecta effect, if you want to call it that. So you can actually get cheaper CPCs by improving your quality scores, and it's one of the roles of a good Google search media buyer will be to improve the quality score on those campaigns as far as possible. Okay.
Who would like a special 5-minute quick version of a super high level strategy to be able to lower your cost per click on Google by 80%? I wasn't planning to do this, and I'd have no slides, and you'll just have to pay attention and listen to it again because I wasn't planning on it, but I will explain it now if everybody wants to listen closely and play the game. I'd say a whole bunch of yeses. Okay, cool. So the reason I know this worked is I almost partnered with a done-for-you agency about a year ago. And what he did is he did 100 days of content videos. So 2 to 3 minutes each, covering some topic around his business. He then took his corporate website and he made a blog, right? Everyone's like, blogs, who the hell uses blogs? Here's why a blog can be helpful, right? He put a blog and then he put the video on YouTube, embedded it into the blog page, and then transcribed what he was teaching into real world language. So he didn't write a script. He just transcribed his real talking language below the video on the blog. And then he looked at the content of what he was talking about, and he went to the Google keyword search tool and he started typing in the Google's keyword search tool to see what high volume or medium volume, whatever, search term, keyword term was relevant to the transcription that he had below the video. And then he took that actual term and he keyword loaded it through his transcription. So he either added it or subbed it in for different words in the transcription. And then he put a call to action button underneath the transcription. And when he posted the blog post, he posted the exact keyword that he had searched and keyword loaded into the URL extension. So it was his website /how-to-create-a high converting funnel, so on and so forth. So now he had a research keyword that was getting traffic, a real life transcription and video post on his blog. He keyword loaded the blog with the actual keyword that was getting search volume. And then he pinged it out to all the directories so that, you know, Google and Yahoo and Bing and DuckDuckGo and all of those things knew that it was alive. He did this 100 days in a row. Okay. Now, here's what happened. When we first looked at his core site, he was only ranking organically for 5 keywords. At the end of the year, or the end of the month, I should say, he was ranking organically for 800 keywords. So then when he went to go and target those keywords with his pay-per-click search campaign, the price that he was given versus the price that everybody else is charged was 20% less. And I'll give you a real life example of that. When he first started, he went to go bid on ClickFunnels, and the click cost that was estimated to him was $3 per click. When he finished and he went to go bid on ClickFunnels, it was 32 cents. That's what we're talking about how you can improve the quality score of your website in Google's eyes, and they will give you cheaper traffic. So that was a really fast description of a super ninja strategy. But if you're ever making content, take that content, put it on YouTube, embed it on your site, because now it gets views, which builds up your YouTube channel. Transcribe it, use rev.com, just do a transcription, and don't modify it to try and make it look beautiful, because Google is starting to love live language because they're moving towards the voice recognition world. So they're giving it preference. Research the topic in the keyword research tool, grab something that has high volume, keyword load that transcription, put a call to action underneath it, and make sure it's the same keyword in your URL extension, then blast it out and ping it out to all the directories, and then watch what happens on your cost per clicks for the stuff that you're trying to bid on in a competitive marketplace. That was a really fast description of something that I spent like a half an hour describing one day. So if you guys have any questions on what I'm saying there and you want clarification, let me know.
Wow.
I would like to add to this. Well, we've been doing this with the video content, and you exactly what you just said, Aaron, is
Good.
transcribing it. Because if I transcribe a 10-minute video, I've got a blog post of about 1,000 words.
Yep.
My content is bigger, better than the 300 words average blogger does.
Yep.
But we are getting our videos ranked on Google page 1, which is the video SEO, along with our blog post. So
That's
when we've got over 1,300 keywords now getting ranked on Google page 1
Yeah.
with our multiple videos on page 1. The beauty of video thumbnails on Google is you got your photo, your logo, your branding
right.
and everything on there, which
Yeah.
makes you stand out. And the best thing is nobody's doing it. Everybody's doing the normal SEO. But
Yeah.
when you start doing video SEO, you get multiple videos on page 1.
That's right.
Yeah. And I mean, it was there. Didn't you just get invited to like participate in some high level Google program because of what you're doing?
Yeah, so it is for the Google as video content creator. It's not officially announced yet, but yeah, I've been invited. It's all signed and sealed, and now just waiting to submit their content, and they will upload my videos from my channel on Google Ads YouTube channel, as well as the support.google.com.
Nice.
That's amazing, man. Congratulations. You know, Victoria is asking me, does this require that you are actually running Google Ads, or can you just use this as an organic strategy? You can 100% use it as just an organic strategy. It's just that if you go, there was a question right before this, Elizabeth, do you believe this advanced strategy would work for location limited search as well? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody punches in like high-end couches in, you know, Freeport, you know, whatever the state is, and you've got a huge content piece around high-end couches in Freeport and what works and what doesn't, and, you know, what you should avoid and what you should whatever, and you follow this strategy, you end up dominating and many times the top listings of the organic searches, which is, I mean, that's prime time real estate, right? And that's what Uzair is doing right now. And, you know, I wouldn't have believed it hadn't I seen it. And that's why I almost merged with this company, because he was now ranking. Last time I checked, he was ranked on 8,000 digital marketing keywords because of this strategy. And I was like, man, we could just go in now and start a pay-per-click search campaign and just slaughter everybody inside of it. And, you know, I ultimately made the decision not to merge, but it's a really, really good strategy.
But see, the funny thing is, Aaron, I'm in the Google Ads niche. If I wanted to rank my content on page 1, I will never be able to beat somebody like Neil Patel, WordStream, support.google.com, and all these high authority websites, HubSpot and stuff. But nobody's doing or paying any attention on video. So this is why I'm quietly cleaning up slowly on Google page 1. So by the time
So
they catch up,
are you loading your video onto YouTube, or are you loading it somewhere else?
No, well, YouTube as well as Vimeo, Dailymotion, Blogger, and we're building up a network of backlinks from there. To I think over 35, 40 different Web 3.0 properties or high authority websites and properties to build up that interlinking. And then Google and YouTube see it, that we've got that social proof, and they start ranking your videos on page 1 of Google.
So you're really upset that I just shared your secret weapon that I didn't even know about.
I know, but in the DM world and with all the friends, it's not too bad.
Okay, all right. There you go.
He's not upset now. Yeah, absolutely.
And also last year, in spite of doing all that, we spent about 120,000 on our ads only for our agency. So it's putting fuel on the fire. And now with your help and working with Andy on a one-to-one basis, it's been brilliant. And we're going to take it to that next level now.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, congratulations on all your success.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great stuff. Great
All right,
stuff.
just a few questions here. We've
Oh,
got,
okay. I'm seeing something.
oh, I'm sorry. I interrupted with questions and we were talking.
No. What's
Okay.
where are we at? Sorry.
Brian is asking, what bid strategies do you recommend on your search campaigns?
Bidding strategies. I mean, we just go for just straight enhanced CPC. I think I would have to go in. I think they've changed it now. We just go for CPC. Is that answering the question? Is that the bidding strategy you said?
Is it, yeah, from Brian, what bid strategies do you recommend on search campaigns?
Yeah, just a straightforward CPC. Nothing else. Nothing else. On Google, I would like to add for YouTube, we always start out with maximize conversions. Unless you've got data in the account, then we'll go for target CPA. So we don't do, for example, target CPA or ROAS or any of that sort of stuff directly. We just go straight for bidding on CPC. On search. On search, yeah.
Okay. Victoria is asking, on Google ad conversions, the conversion ID and the label only comes after you have the conversion verified. It's a question. The conversion label only comes after you have the conversion verified?
So the sequence is that when you first set up the conversion action, it will say unverified. Okay, once you've installed and connected the Google action directly into, once you've installed it, for example, through GTM, and you actually visit that page, it will fire the conversion action. The problem is it doesn't appear in the Google ad account straight away. So you have to be a little bit patient. Sometimes it takes a few hours before Google recognizes as it's seen the conversion action, but it's not. It will change the status from unverified to conversions not seen or something. I can't remember the exact status that it shows, you know. And sorry, Brian, I meant manual CPC. Okay. So manual CPC. Okay. Is there a prize for most questions? Yes, Victoria. I think you must be near the number one.
Most questions. Okay, so Ben is asking, any recommendations on improving your page speed?
Yes, there are lots. I mean, the most common one, obviously, is to reduce your image sizes, for example. So really get them scaled down. And there's like a utility which I used to use a lot called tinypng.com, tinypng.com. It like compresses the images, I think, on a consistent basis very, very well. So that's number one. One of the most biggest culprits, and this is if you are using like plugins or connectors to things like Stealth Seminar or Webinar Jam and those kind of platforms, they have these very heavy JavaScripts that load. Hotjar, which is an awesome CRO tool, but it's awesome, but please don't put it on your landing page. By all means, put it on other elements in your funnel, and you want to do recordings on what people are doing on the VSL page. But unfortunately, the JavaScript will slow down your load page. So we like to make it lightweight as possible. If you so choose, and I would recommend something like an Unbounce, for example, because they put like AMP versions of they've got all their servers like in the cloud, and then they've got them super optimized, and then you can use Google AMP pages for that, called accelerated mobile pages, which will load landing pages for mobile devices very fast. So there's lots of things you can do. It's such a specialized area, landing page optimizations. Aaron's is good friends with someone that just specializes in Shopify optimizations only.
Yeah, I think we talked about him last week or the week before. His name's Dan Wilkinson. You could do a quick Google search on Shopify speed load experts. And it's always comes down to image size and scripts running in the background, apps running in the background. The great thing is if you go to something like Google PageSpeed Insights or GTmetrix or whatever, and you show it to anybody who has any tech knowledge, it lists out all the things that are causing you to load slowly. So they'll all give you a list, and then you just attack them one by one.
Yeah. I'm putting in the chat here, I think it's called tools. The other one we're using more and more is tools.pingdom.com, because you can simulate where you're actually located in different parts of the US or Europe or around the world. And you can also simulate your internet speed. It's a little bit more, you can do a bit more fine tuning on that, you know. Again, you would look at, for example,
and there are platforms that right now, some of them are faster than others, some of them are slower than others. You know, I love Russell Brunson and I love the ClickFunnels community, but they've had notoriously slow page speed loading, and it's caused a lot of people a lot of problems. You know, there's some that are better. The AMP certified ones, you know, DropFunnels is decent because it's built on WordPress, so it loads fast. High Level has started to really up their game on their page speed times. But like any business, they ebb and they flow depending on what they're building and what they're optimizing. So you gotta really test it and look at your metrics about once per month to be safe, because if it's slow loading, the user experience and the penalties that you pay are high.
Yeah, you pay a lot more in traffic at the end of the day.
It's not just the traffic, right? It's the traffic. And I mean, how many of you guys have clicked on a site and starts the spinning dial and you're sitting there for like 2 seconds and you're like, I'm out later, right? So it's a huge credibility problem. And then you got to think, like, most of us live in places where our technology is really good, right? So all of us are probably wired in with fiber and all that stuff. So we think like it's loading fast, but think about the people that are on their phone, maybe in a place that doesn't have a great network. And so their speed is like half the load time that ours is. You got to be thinking about all of those people, you know, in the countries that you're marketing to as well. So you have to be as good as humanly possible to ensure that your conversions stay high and you're not penalized.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it. Okay. So Victoria is asking, where would you record your show up rate besides on your personal spreadsheet? Does this happen in the ads dashboards, any of them?
You could probably implement something there, but generally speaking, you could do it in a spreadsheet. One of the things there's Go High Level is one of those software where you can actually probably track that. I think, Aaron, don't you know GHL quite well for that, for show up rates? I'm not sure.
For show up rates to what?
To a sales call. You could put it in
I
a
mean,
separate
if you're going to
stage in the
use Go
funnel.
High Level, then basically what you have to do is you have to create an opportunity stage,
That's
right?
right.
It's what you do, right? So if it's booked to a sales call and you set up a trigger, it'll automatically go and all your reminders will go out. And then as a salesperson, you have like three next steps, right? Which is no show, on the fence, and then obviously the next one would be like moving forward. And each one of those would have follow-up mechanisms already created behind those. And then you can look at your report. If you're talking about high level, for example, they've got your pipeline report at the top that shows like leads, booked appointments, booked calls, show rate, no show rate, close rate, depending on how you have your opportunity stages set up, which is why salespeople love CRMs like Zoho, Salesforce, Go High Level. It's a really easy system to use. And for those people who are still using old school methodologies where somebody doesn't show up and you type them an email that says, hey, not sure what happened, but you missed our call. If you want to reschedule, let me know. What are you doing? Right? Find something that has an automatic opportunity stage that you can just slide them into and it does all that for you. You don't want to be doing that.
No, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Victoria says, I'm using Infusionsoft. Infusionsoft has one of the most robust feature sets on the planet. It's also one of the most complicated ones on the planet to use. So if you know it inside and out, use it. But we try to stay away from it as much as we can.
Yeah, I don't. We had clients that came with where you'd build a landing page on Infusionsoft, and it was
don't do that.
Oh my God, my goodness. We
No,
had
don't do
clients
that.
that came in and we said, we're not working with this. We're gonna put you on unmounts or drop funnels. I think we moved them all to drop funnels. The landing pages are horrific.
This is one of those things that you constantly have to analyze: is where is every company's zone of genius, right? Kajabi's zone of genius is in course delivery. Awesome, absolutely fantastic. Landing pages, terrible, right? ClickFunnels, theirs is like their drag and drop website builder, but it's really mostly their education. It's a great community, right? The tool is great, but the speed load time is a huge problem. And, there's a bunch of other things I could get into here, but whatever, right? You look at, drop funnels might be a great example. Great landing pages, right? But maybe they could do a better job in their course delivery area, right? So you take like the best thing that somebody offers and then you tie it to the best thing. And that's why I think High Level is doing so well in the marketplace right now, because they're really rolling out really high level pieces of every single thing you can do into one ecosystem, which makes it really easy to, have everything in one spot.
That's right. They
just raised 60 million in funding.
That's right. Yeah. Exactly.
All right. Oh, sorry. So we have a few questions and then we'll have to wrap it up because we're going to be coming up on the hour soon. So we'll take these questions that we have. So Elizabeth is asking if Aaron, do you believe this advanced strategy would work for location limited search as well?
Yep, I answered that one for her already.
Skip that one. Okay. And then she has a different question of the Google section you just did answers the budget part of her prior questions. How long though for a search campaign with lower budget would I need to wait until I can tweak the 90 days?
So
I don't want to risk creating algorithm issues that waste money and hinders algorithm learning.
So again, the 90 days on Google search is very subjective. I mean, essentially what you're trying to do is you're going to have to spend, you won't get clicks if you don't bid high enough. All right. So you're going to put your manual CPC relatively high. Doesn't mean you're going to pay that amount, because if someone's bidding whatever, $2 and you're bidding $5, you're not going to pay $5. You're going to pay $2, or you're going to pay somewhere close to that. But I think the question is your budget. That spreadsheet, which I'm going to share with you afterwards, will give you an idea on how much budget you're going to need. In terms of, you're not going to upset any algorithm. When you launch these campaigns out of the gate, you're going to put your keywords in. You're going to go manual CPC. You're going to bid reasonably competitively so you can get into the auction. And then you're going to start getting data come into the ad account as to what your CTR is. Your CTR is basically a function of how good the ad is and how good the landing page is. Okay. All right. So what's going to happen is that you're going to start seeing additional keywords come in and creep into the system, and you have to eliminate them by using what's known as negative keywords. But essentially, you can, on average, it takes us about, I would say about 30 to 40 days to really dial in the majority of the keywords that we need for initial traction. The problem is scaling, that you can't increase, because if there's no more people searching for what you're offering, then there's nothing to scale. But I'm not sure if I'm answering the question, Elizabeth, but you don't have to worry about 90 days or windows of any of that nature. It's just go with your best keywords, bid competitively, get some good ads out there, start running traffic to it. You will start getting results quite quickly. If people are not converting into a lead, and that's what you're looking, then you've got a problem with the funnel and not so much with the traffic. If your CTR is always around the 1.5 to 2.5% range, you're generally in the good zone there. You will have some keywords that do 10% CTR. You'll have other keywords that would do a lower CTR. It's about matching the keyword with the ad and the landing page experience. So that's why if you're going to end up with 100 keywords or 2,000 keywords in big campaigns, it takes a lot out of a campaign media to do that. But generally speaking, most of the initial results in terms of good click-through rates should be coming through within about 30 days. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Cool.
Malcolm has a reasonable summary that he posted in the chat. I don't know.
Do you want to have a look at that, Aaron? Can you see that?
Or maybe we put it in Slack if he wants to get more feedback on it.
Sure. Absolutely.
In depth. So Malcolm, maybe we can put that in the Slack channel. And then we have just one question left from Suzanne, who said that in Slack, she asked about choosing an e-com product, and you recommended bringing it up here.
Yes. So I answered. Sorry, Aaron. But this is a big one because I know Nicholas is also interested in this as well. So for those of you looking in the e-commerce, Aaron, I know that you've got a hell of a lot more experience on an e-commerce, on how to test product and market matches and all that sort of thing. So I know that Suzanne and Nicholas are attentive learners. What I responded in Slack is essentially choose something that you're interested in, because e-commerce is not an easy business, and you need to have it. But there's the other flip side of it, is that you can find a market that's super hot and you make a lot of money out of it. So it's horses for courses in many different respects on that sort of side, but that's more the sort of the mindset approach sort of thing. And
I'll give my answer to it. E-commerce always breaks up into one of two silos: a brand product, or what I call a holy shit product. There's no in between. Okay. A brand product is a supplement, a skin cream. I'm seeing these t-shirts in my feed all the time right now. They're doing cool ads about dad bods and so blah, 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 sunglasses, right? Those are brand products. If you're going to try and launch a brand product, everything has to be about feel and energy and spokespeople, and it takes a long time to build, but if you can get it off the ground, then you can get a great multiple out of it. Those are brand products. And then you got holy shit products. Those are products that when you see them in your feed, you go, I must have that now. And those products either have to be developed by you, or you have to do a ton of research to find manufacturers or distributors and try to create a deal. And you'll very quickly know if it falls into that category by choosing 20 audiences in, let's say, Facebook and Instagram, and 4 or 5 images of each thing, and throwing it up there and seeing what the metrics feed you back. Because I always marketed in that line of product, and I would test 10 to 20 products. And if one hit, which it would usually hit like 1 out of 20, I would know immediately, because my cost per click and my add to cart and my purchase price were so different than the rest of them that you couldn't not know. There's no in between, right? If you're in that vein, you know when you know. And the great thing is about Facebook and Instagram is you can test those things so quickly on such a small budget that you'll know right away. But I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
One of our clients that we had for 2.5, 3 years was a client called Tactical Traps. And you guys can look it up online. Tactical Traps are concealed gun safes. So for my Texas people, you're getting all excited right now. So the biggest selling product we ever did was their floating shelf. So it looks like every other floating shelf with your pictures and a flower pot and whatever on it. But with your phone app, you click it and down drops the secret hidden gun safe in plain sight with your AR-15s in it, right? You put a video up of that. My wife we don't even have guns. We live in the Cayman Islands. They don't let us have guns here. My wife's like, babe, I need you to get me one of those. I said, for what? She said, I don't know. This is just cool. I'll hide something else in there, right? That's like that's a holy shit product. And if it stops you dead in your feet, that guy did 50 million a year with us on those hidden gun safes. It was bonkers.
Yeah.
Right. And you will sell yourself out all day long. I personally understand both sides of the equation. If you want to go long-term brand play, like a Pura Vida or a Boom by Cindy Joseph or whatever, you got to look at how they build the feel of the business.
Yeah.
And it takes time, and it's very, very financially heavy from marketing, endorsements, inventory, et cetera, et cetera. The other side, you might not be able to sell the thing for a huge exit, but the cash flow is just immediate. So I played in the holy shit category, right? And because you guys have all done it. You're scrolling through your feed and you go, whoa, what is that? You don't do that with like t-shirts and skin creams and supplements and things like that. You do it with the weird cookie cutter that has, like a naked man on it or so, like just stupid stuff like that. It just stops you dead in your tracks. You have to buy it, that's that. There's two sides. So I don't know if that answers the question, but yeah, like a plunger that has a poop emoji for the plunger part. Yeah. And a lot of them can be gag gifts. A lot of them can be technology. A lot of them can, that's why t-shirt brands do so well, is because people test all the different designs on t-shirts and there's just something that resonates. Like for me, the last thing I bought was I have to buy that. Is anybody a Star Wars fan in here?
Yes.
Just put yes if you're a Star Wars fan. Right? The last one I got was these 2 mugs. And the one mug said, I love you. And the other mug said, I know. Because if you know Princess Leia and Han Solo, right? So I was like, I need that. So we got those 2 mugs, right? Because we had to, right? Like it's just, Travis Chappell, who runs Guestio.com. I don't know if you know Travis Chappell or Guestio, but he sent me this wooden box set with these 2 crystal, liquor glasses inside of it. And it had this cool art on the front that said, you be my glass of wine, I'll be your shot of whiskey, right? I like country music. So, when that was sent to me, he did the research to know, and he said, I was like, dude, I love that. And that instantly went up in my bar, right? Like stuff that stops you dead in your tracks is so fun to market because it is so easy.
Yeah. Another sort of area I've seen work quite well is community-based sort of like, I don't remember the name of the store right now, but it was selling to cops, like t-shirts to cops.
Yeah, the Thin Blue line. I mean, that brand absolutely crushed it. Survival crushed it. Like I try to lean into passion-driven community style stuff, like a Thin Blue line or a CrossFit centric, something where like you know, people are like super emotionally vested in it, or the holy shit product side. The branding side is amazing. You can exit for huge multiples, but you got to have a lot of elements in place to make it work.
Yeah.
There's a whole, see, we started the Star Wars. This is what happened in our Slack channel with our team the other day, Andy. We mentioned Star Wars and the conversations have gone completely off the rails on episodes and who's the best actor. And, you know, it's just, it's a disaster. We need to end on that note.
Yeah.
But yes, next, if you show up next week and you remind me, I will show you the Aaron circa 20 years ago Fight Club picture.
There you go. That's right. Yeah, exactly.
I'll
Something
be
to look
here.
forward to.
Well, this is great, guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you on Tuesday, and everybody have a great weekend.
Bye, guys.
Yeah, wonderful. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye. Thanks. Bye.